You can probably guess that one of these minifigures isn't real, and that is because this one, Cloud City Boba Fett, sells somewhere around $2,500, according to Chief LEGO tracking sites, while most are less than 10. We know that the LEGO Group rakes in the Danish kroner, but the secondary market is weird and huge. It's studied by economists.
What I call the LEGO yield curve is essentially average or expected returns of different LEGO sets
And optimized by entrepreneurs.
We are always buying LEGO. I'm never not buying LEGO. I've spent all the way up to $80,000 in cash in LEGO before.
I chatted with 5 people to get a peek at the secret economics of LEGO. So I'm going to take you through the LEGO secondary market. You're going to learn what exactly it is, how smart sellers get an advantage, and how it is kind of a microcosm for the economy as a whole. But let's start with the basics. We know that LEGO is a huge company. The secondary market is big too. Secondary market here means resales. There is a lot of activity going on here, and I was really surprised to find it. So how does that work? We'll start with the basics, and I'm going to tell you about a platform that blew my mind closer to the end of this video. But at that beginning, introductory stage, you've got obviously platforms like eBay that are selling lots of LEGO bricks, but then you also have specialized retail marketplaces like Bricklink. You have Brickset and Brick Economy, which are these LEGO databases that track LEGO prices. You also have huge retail chains like Bricks and Minifigs. If you go ahead and look at this map of Bricks and Minifigs locations, you can see that they are everywhere, and they're a really big player in this resale market. But there's also a lot more niche stuff going on. Brick Economy, I will show them throughout this video, but they allow you to actually track LEGO values for certain LEGO pieces. What is going on here? I'm going to start that using my conversation with Sava, and he studies a lot of alternative assets. Now, a lot of this is like cryptocurrencies, but he also supervised a PhD that was all about LEGO resales, and so he has a lot of knowledge of that market too.
The first idea is how feasible it is. Do LEGO sets in this particular case provide attractive enough returns and or attractive diversification?
I think that is a really useful frame to get through this, because it shows you that this isn't about like reselling LEGO collectibles alone. It's about making an investment. And so he compares it in his paper to other alternative investments like wine or like stamps and stuff like that. And there are some fascinating differences that LEGO has.
You cannot most of the time buy a fraction of a particular, say, rare vintage of wine, and they can be quite pricey item-wise. So it's typically very affluent people who are in the alternatives trade. And
basically, with a LEGO collectible, you might be able to buy something for like $10 or $15 and then resell it later for $35. But with other alternative investments, you might have to spend $1,000 or $3,000 and then later resell it at $6,000. So how well does any of this actually perform?
Good enough to beat inflation and good enough to be on par with short-term government bonds. So things like 2 to 3% real return.
But there are 2 key advantages for LEGO investors that are kind of hidden by that phrasing. The performance of LEGO over time appears not to be correlated with broader market performance. So what does that mean in English? Basically means stocks can go up and down, the economy can go up and down, but like a lot of alternative investments, LEGO is a hedge against it. It allows you to have a stable investment when the rest of the world is falling apart, at least to some degree. And that may be part of the reason that LEGO trades tens of millions of dollars worth every single year.
The volume of LEGO traded on this platform exceeds the volume traded on the Estonian stock market. Amount of trading there is comparable to a frontier market.
The other thing is that the performance of these LEGO sets on average is actually a lot lower than what you can get in certain sectors of LEGO.
The same way you would invest in a country or a company, you need to consider a lot of seemingly irrelevant third factors and secondary facts. Performance of some themes and topics is pretty bad. So for sets that are made for very small children are performing particularly bad because maybe adult collectors are just not really interested in collecting, say, Lego Duplo, for instance. Original Lego IP they also perform badly.
Although I feel like Ninjago does pretty well.
Ninjago is the second big success.
Sorry, I'm
after
turning sideways because of the way the paper is formatted,
Oh.
so that's why I'm
So-
looking up Ninjago here.
Ninjago and
Humorously.
Bionicle are two
Yeah.
only bits of original Lego IP that did well on the collectibles market. What does perform well are sets that are based on third-party IP that Lego buys. So, for
Yeah.
instance, Harry Potter sets.
Smart investors can win out. So how do you become a smart investor? How do you get that big advantage? So real quick, I want to tell you about the sponsor of this video. It is Southern New Hampshire University. SNHU is one of the largest accredited universities in the United States with some of the most affordable online tuition rates in the nation. I like it because their programs are super flexible. There are no set class times, allowing you to work when and where you want. Let's take a look here. Accounting and finance, game art and graphic design, education. I know I would benefit from the formal instruction in graphic design. So to me, the big value unlock is being able to make a career transition possible with flexible classes that are transfer ready. I have a range of friends who have made career shifts like this. With SNHU, you can transfer up to 90 credits toward a bachelor's degree, and not just from a prior college. You can get credit for military, other work, and life experiences, which can help you finish your degree faster and for less money. This will also work for jobs that have degree requirements. So if this is of interest to you, go to the link that I've got on screen or snhu.edu/Phil Edwards to explore more than 200 degree programs that can help you find your path. Thank you to them for making this video possible. Now let's go ahead and get back to the video. Okay, so the first guy I talked to was David. He runs a channel called DG Bricks. Warren, could you tell me, how did this get started for you?
So I got into the hobby about 2004 and really enjoyed it for about 6 years. Then high school happened, college happened. I kind of fell away from it, but I had a little bit of a light bulb moment regarding the aftermarket when I was getting ready to move away to college. And I was looking around my childhood bedroom. I had this enormous collection of sets that family members had gifted me. And I started looking at their values online on eBay. And what I noticed was that a lot of these sets from that golden era, Star Wars sets particularly, really have doubled and tripled in price from their original retail.
He also nicely set up his niche in the Lego aftermarket.
What I talk about on my channel, which is the purchasing of outgoing sets, holding them while they're discontinued, and then later selling them once they've become scarce and valuable. That's only a small niche of the Lego aftermarket. You have Bricklink stores. I know people that buy incomplete lots of incomplete sets and complete them and then sell those for a profit.
The most fundamental job of a Lego set collector is to buy a set and then hold it for a certain number of years, almost like a wine cellar.
Just like wine, there's a vintage of each year. And at the end of that year, Lego is always introducing new products. And so to make space for those in their supply chain and just in their company, they retire old products. Now, most Lego sets are on shelves for between 1 and 3 years. A small number might be limited time gift with purchases or something with a 6-month shelf life. On the other end, some sets have shelf lives of 5, 6, or even 9 years.
Sava gave me an academic perspective on this. He talked about the Lego yield curve.
What I call the Lego yield curve is essentially average or expected returns of different Lego sets based on how much time has passed since their introduction.
David gave me a couple examples of this.
So this is a set that I had in my childhood. This is not the copy that I did have in my childhood.
Oh, really?
But I'm such a Lego nerd. I can tell you the number, the shelf life. This is set number 8039. Man, I sound nerdy. From 2009, I think, until 2011.
Okay.
So this has been discontinued now for 15 years.
Wow.
I think at first it was $120. And if you want a sealed copy, today it's going to run you $600 or $700.
I pressed investors like David on stuff like grading, like do they rate the quality of Lego sets? And it seems like that's not a super mature thing at this point, though some Lego sets are occasionally graded. I also wanted to find out like what genres or what niches are popular. And that's an interesting one because it is not just scarcity that makes something popular. It's also how much Lego collectors want it or desire it.
Sets that are stereotypically girly.
Yeah.
So those, for maybe one reason or another, how the culture of those collectors work, those also perform pretty poorly.
So the fact that that Cloud City Lego set is so expensive is not just because it's scarce or complex, but it's scarce and complex. And then also in that Venn diagram, you've got the fact that a lot of people who like Lego like Star Wars stuff. This illuminated for me a point about collectibles that perhaps should have been obvious, but that I didn't understand before, which is like the way they are different from, say, gold. So gold is valuable because it is scarce and because it is tradable. Lego characters or sets can also be scarce and tradable, but they have another asset, which is the intellectual property behind them, the fandom that gives them more value. At this point, you might be wondering, is Lego set dominance just kind of pattern matching nerd stuff to Lego stuff? Like, you know, a Harry Potter set or a Star Wars set is going to do well. And it's more complicated than that.
I am collecting data. Every time the presenter mentions a set, I record it as a mention on my table, and then I give each of their mentions an enthusiasm score of 0 through 3. A 3 means they are saying it is a home run Lego investment. A 2 means they are saying it is an average Lego investment. A 1 means they are interested, but they still have questions. And a 0 means they are skipping it for Lego investing.
All right, so next up I talked with Kevin from KDX Bricks Analytics.
So now I watch all the other videos and I compile it and I share with with my viewers where the whole Lego investment community is trending from a data and analytics perspective. So yeah, it's been awesome.
And he reminded me of like a Wall Street analyst. Like, imagine somebody on CNBC saying what the market does or doesn't want.
Market sentiment is on a razor's edge.
Kevin does that kind of analysis with Lego.
It could be so overinvested and there could be so much supply on the secondary market.
To figure out which sets to buy, and then even to assess like whether he did a good job or not.
Can you describe to me what you're trying to look at or optimize for there?
Make the math simple. If I can buy a set for $100 and ultimately I'm going to resell it for, let's say, $180, because then I can take that $180, buy the next one for $100 and sell it the next day for $180. And so it's the whole compounding and turning over the investment. You know, most people say the ideal time to hold a set is a year to 2 years. And, you know, people are trying to target like a year and 3 months. Sometimes sets take a little longer to grow. And there's another way of thinking about this, which is if I have a certain amount of storage space for my Lego sets that I'm going to resell, and once that's filled up and I've made that initial upfront investment, then it really doesn't matter if I hold them for 1 year or 5 years. Sets that I held for 3 years had the lowest return on investment, because if they're sets that end up being great investments and do awesome quickly after retirement, then I'm going to sell them in year 1 or year 2 and get that, realize that return on investment. Most of the sets that I've held for 3 years are the ones that were not good investments, haven't done that well, and I'm still holding out, hoping that they grow a little bit more for me.
He's also using a lot of different tech to figure out his stuff. He's often on this site called Keepa, which is an Amazon price tracking tool, or camel.com, and he is addicted to Brick Economy. All these tools are part of his analyst's toolkit. I also want to talk about one edge that an investor has, which is in exclusive sets. There are some Lego sets that are only sold at Lego stores or during various promotions, and that naturally gives investors an edge. Now, for Dave and Kevin, Lego is not their sole source of income, at least not yet. So, are there Lego investors that are doing this at a bigger scale? And if so, how do they do it? Okay, so I feel like now you've got an idea that different Lego sectors can have different value over time, but so can different Lego products. And the key product is the minifig.
For me, it's just generally what I'm passionate about and interested in. For one, it's very important to factor in the shipping and the inventory of the items, right?
Oh, yeah.
Something you don't really think about till you're doing it. You know, if you're somebody selling sneakers, every piece of your inventory is this big. You need a whole room dedicated to it. I could have thousands of minifigures in a bucket this big, and it takes up a corner of my room.
To better understand the world of minifigs, I talked to Dom. He is Sudstash. He's kind of a Lego celebrity on YouTube, and he works a lot with minifigs.
I know people that strictly sell sets, and they have a whole room, a whole floor dedicated to it, and it's the same money value-wise as the minifigures.
Sava's analysis showed this as well with minifigs, as well as with brickheads, which are a little bit bigger, but they're still pretty easy to ship, and they're character-based, so there's all that emotional attachment there.
So they are reasonably new, so they not have been around for a long time. But when they came out, they were really popular with collectors and investors. And so our paper, for instance, reports very high returns for brickheads.
So within this smaller niche of minifigs, there are different things that can make them valuable. It can be the IP, it can be pure scarcity, or it can be stuff like a misprint.
See if it'll pick this up. This Commander Fox.
Yeah.
So you can see on his torso, this one right here has a little gray semicircle right above his belt line, and this one does not. The difference in these is hundreds of dollars. Like, literally, it's insane. This came out in 2008 in the same set, but for some reason, they printed some without that semicircle right here, and that is why this one, collectors want it just to be like, I have it and you don't. And it sells for $500 to $1,000, and in this one, the standard one typically sells for around $120 to $200.
So I want to take this moment to emphasize that while Lego is a real market, it can be tough to find buyers for super high-end stuff. Like, let's say you have one of these $1,000 minifigs, you know, like it tracks at that value, but is the market big enough that there is always enough demand to support that value? Like, is there always a $1,000 buyer out there?
Just classic supply and demand, right? A lot of these more expensive items, there's not 100 of them available at any given time, and everyone's just setting it at 1,000. But with something like that, it was initially 1,000 when it was kind of discovered, the Fox one, because it was just a crazy hype thing, and you really didn't know how many were going to surface. But now it's kind of fluctuated a lot, but they typically sell for a little bit less, like $600, $700, like $800 typically. And, you know, you'll get somebody that doesn't care at all, and they'll just throw one up for 400. Like, oh my gosh, I can get $400 for this. I just found it sitting in my bin.
He also brought up a couple of examples about how events can shape the price of an item in an unpredictable way.
There's a Ninjago minifigure, the DX Lloyd, and that was an old one in a Target exclusive $15 like promotional box, and it was $200 to $300 for, you know, since 2014, and that was about market price. Ninjago's currently going through an anniversary year. I think it's the 15th year. And that minifigure this week is selling for over $1,000. It's happening overnight, it seems.
This is as good a time as any to explain why that Cloud City Boba Fett is so desirable.
Cloud City Boba Fett. He's basically the Grail with Star Wars figures, right? Like, in terms of Lego and Star Wars, it's this kind of peak of insane kind of Lego lore and just a really popular character of a cool minifigure, because the Cloud City set, this is the one that sells for $10,000 sealed. This is the only set he appeared in, and this was 2003. It was only available in Lego stores, right? And at the time, there was, I think the data is 12 to 15 Lego stores in the US at the time. And this was an era where you could buy it online, but 2003 online shopping was not popular at all.
As you can imagine, these extreme prices for minifigs occasionally even cause counterfeiting to happen, though I get the impression it's not a terrible problem just yet.
You'll go on eBay and you'll see people that sell a minifigure like this. It looks like it. Now, if you put them side by side, you can obviously tell one's fake, but in the description, they'll say what you see is what you get. So they're trying to kind of diffuse the responsibility where, oh, this is $700. It's a good deal, but what you see is what you get. I'm not saying it's real. I'm not saying it's fake, but if you want to pay $700 for this, that's your fault. Like,
I also want to explore that some sellers like Stud Stash are even using new and really interesting types of markets to sell these Lego collectibles.
$7 on this one?
That brings me to the last person that I talked to who helped me understand how Lego sales can really scale up. I love my conversation with Fritz because he brings together a ton of the different themes that we've been talking about throughout the video, whether it's sentiment analysis or selling online or figuring out a way to scale up.
When COVID hit, I know a lot of people had gone back to Lego. I actually didn't do anything with Lego. I joined the Marine Corps at that point. I enlisted in the Marines, and then I realized living in California, because that's where I was stationed, costed a lot of money. And gas was like $5-6, and a gallon of milk was $5-6, and because I was picking up like little collections here and there, and I started doing it on eBay, selling sets, and then I went from eBay to Whatnot because I saw a handful of other sellers I had followed, like YouTubers and stuff, check out Whatnot. So I went over to Whatnot, started selling on there, and from there it just evolved.
He has since opened a physical Lego store.
I own Fritz Bricks in Fenton, Michigan.
But I get the impression that a big part of it is it serves as like a warehouse and a set on a live auction platform called Whatnot, where he hosts these sales almost like an updated version of QVC.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's over 1,000 Star Wars figures right there. We've got a system for sorting figures right here. We've got walls that look like this that are filled with sorting figures, sorting parts. And some of these parts are $50 a piece.
As a bigger seller, he is laser focused on a niche.
I'm a big Star Wars fan. Always have been. And if you're getting into economics of Lego, if you're getting into that, right?
Yeah.
You already know that Star Wars is the number one thing you can invest in to get a return on. I would also add that if you are an investor into Lego, look into Brickheads. The ROI is absolutely insane. And I'll just leave it there. You'll find out if you do the actual due diligence, you'll be like, oh my God.
I want to play you one clip and listen to how well he knows the numbers and stats of a particular item. Don't try to understand it. Just try to think that this is just like any sort of commodities trader, except the commodity here is Lego.
P2 Rex came out in a $600 set. They said it was going to be exclusive to that set, and then it wasn't. Came out in a $13 set. And then the 2013 P2 Rex that they had that was selling for $250 on the aftermarket dropped down all the way down to like $140.
A lot of sales for Fritz will happen in the store, but they'll also happen on Whatnot. He just goes on there almost constantly and is selling a high volume of stuff.
It's like now fast-paced sales. Like we could sell a figure for 5 seconds. We could sell it for 20 seconds or 5 seconds. Boom, 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 boom. And do 150 figures in, 2 hours, 3 hours.
I mean, we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars of sales on this platform.
85% of what our sales were just Star Wars figures. We did over 500K.
He has to buy a lot of inventory. That means making big payments to get lots of Legos that he then parses out and figures out the individual value for.
And we are always buying Lego. I'm never not buying Lego. I've spent all the way up to $80,000 in cash in Lego before at one point. Wow. I drove 5 hours to go pick up the collection. It was around 200,000, 180,000 in value, and I paid him $80,000 in cash.
So he's big on Whatnot. I think his YouTube channel is actually really cool because you can see how a negotiation works in some of his shorts. And it's really interesting to see it at that granular level.
Here at 9K, there's roughly 1,100 figures in here. Ooh. Do you know what you're looking to get?
Like 9,000.
What?
The Magna Guard. Fox. Ooh, Count Dooku? Hey, let's go. How do we go right in the middle at like 7,500?
I hope by now that you're convinced that Lego resale can be a serious business, but I want to play you another clip of him parsing out and analyzing exactly how he might break down a big lot of Legos.
All right, I bought that collection for 10 grand. Say it's all figures. All the figures are, we'll say, roughly 1,700 figures. I'll take the 1,700 figures, $10,000 divided by 1,700. That means my cost total per figure is $588. $588 per figure. And there's some good ones and some bad ones and all that. As you sell those $100 ones or more, it brings that down. So in reality, once you sell those high ends, you have all these bulkier figures that you're selling for $5 to $6 or $7. You are still making money.
So what I loved about talking to all these people is that it is their passion that makes them such good investors. They figured out a way to lock together that passion and their businesses. But what really makes it work is that Lego is worth a lot more than money to them.
Again, I always provide the Harry Potter castle as an example, because that was my childhood dream in 2001.
One beautiful thing about the entire Lego hobby, including Lego investing, is there's no one right way to do it.
I get to go put my own mental energy into how I want to do this and how I want to build this and how I want to learn how to do this. And I think that's a healthy thing for human beings to have an area that they own themselves.
I've been somebody that's been making videos ever since I was a kid, like just making little Lego action figure battle videos off my old flip camera. And it's something that I've always liked, and never in a million years did I think that I would be able to do this as a job.
My 4-year-old has been enjoying Lego too, and that part's awesome. Like it's one of the best feelings, like seeing my kid play with Lego, and then I can sit down and play with her, and that's like probably one of the best experiences.
Thank you for watching. I want you to go over to Patreon right now because I've got an extra article there. I have a free newsletter I publish. You can get it every time a video comes out. You'll know when it comes out, and you get a bonus article. And this time, I want to do kind of a servicey thing. I am going to give you the 101 to Lego investing from what I have learned talking to all these knowledgeable people. I've also got links over there to all their YouTube channels and profiles. And if you want to nerd out on this stuff, they have a ton of great stuff that they've all made over the years that can help you do that.